teacher and a doctor, but with me he didn't bother. Section 8 was mama's wisdom, how we sleep when it was warmer. I was grief, I would dishonor, I would speak when it was drama. Sleep while she was working harder, so that we could make it farther. Fail schooler, smoke the money, guilt I'm sweeping on my father, as if his absence was reason for making my mama a weeping martyr. My efforts sandcastles that just wait for beaching waters, until I heard who wrote my life and saw that Jesus was the author. See, a bastard is robed in curses, with man is disposed as worthless. God chose to bestow a purpose. It shows when they close the curtains. He blows on his coals of words in our bellies. The glow of furnace, the soul of a person that knows that he's purchased will explode in worship. I hear stories of the past, his invitations, trash to antiques, past parade, a pageant of his graces. Epistles of bone, believe his blood is active validation. Where your fault against the cross and see who has enough to pay them.
It's such a fortunate failure, and tossed into that sea of forgetfulness. Redeemed, helpless to change our past, but great was Elohim to redeem. It's no rewind, just redeem.
There we go. As I was saying, I don't know why that happens, dude. It's the world is set up against me. Like, why does that? Why don't my settings change? It's like, oh, he didn't stream for a little bit. Let's change all his settings when he's not looking. Anyway, as I was saying, Gregorian chant, Evil Ken. I listen to that when I'm doing homework, or like if I'm like reading, because I got really bad dyslexia, so I can't read if there's any other words. So like if my kids are in the background talking, or if there's like a television going on or music with like words I understand playing, like it's impossible to read. Like my mind can't do it. So I got to put on like classical music or like Gregorian chants all in Latin, so that doesn't bother me. So I throw that shit on. I love that song I just played. I've been listening to it a bunch. Yeah, that's what there's a lot of Gregorian chant. I was saying, makes me think of ionic compounds and valence electrons. I listen to it a lot when I'm doing chemistry. I got a lot of chemistry when I'm done with this. All I can think about is like, okay, I gotta get done with this, and then I got a lot of chemistry homework. Wizard, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you so much for the love, Wizard. Thank you so much, Colora, passing the plate. Appreciate that. Thank you, Brad Allen. Yeah, are you in there right now? Hey, there he is. He's there.
Hey, what's up, Smiga? Give me a second.
Brad Allen said he's releasing a new video on Friday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right on. How you been, Smiga?
Oh, dude, I'm getting worn out, man. This shit is hard. I hate chemistry. I also got like insomnia. I think I've been having this like on and off for like a few months. I was talking about it on the stream a while back. Like I didn't go to sleep till like 4:30. Like I'm sitting there laying in bed and I'm like, dude. And then I hear my wife's alarm go off, and I'm like, well, at least I know what time it is. And people are like, what do you, like they're like, well, what did you do? What were you doing? I was like, I was fucking laying in bed with my eyes shut. That's what I was doing. I wasn't playing video games or watching TV or fucking reading a book. I was laying in bed with my eyes shut for 7 hours straight going, oh, I guess I'm just not going to sleep. I'm just going to fucking lay here and roll back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Interesting. Have you tried like melatonin or any of that stuff?
Yeah, I've tried all that shit, dude. My wife recommends this like really strong stuff, and I'm like, ugh, I don't like it, but I might need to do it. Yeah,
they have ZQuil too. It's like the stuff in NyQuil, but without the cough medicine. Works for some people.
Yeah, I don't know what this is she has. It's like a little blue pill, and she's like, only take half.
Half of Benadryl.
I've taken it before, and it I'll be like, babe, I had the craziest fucking dreams, and she's like, oh yeah, that does that.
Yeah, that stuff always makes me groggy the next day. I never have a problem sleeping. I don't. I get my 5 to 8 hours, and boom, I'm back up. It's wild.
Yeah, not me, dude. I got a weird thing going on. Yeah, Sparky the Welder's right. He says Monkey needs to be able to hear the words in his head when he mouths the words he is reading. That's actually true. Like, if I can't hear me say the words in my head, I struggle to read. You know what's kind of funny about that? There was a guy by the name of, I think it was Athanasius. I could be wrong, but it's one of them early church fathers. And he was contemporaries of a guy named Augustine. And Augustine heard Athanasius or came in, and Athanasius was reading in his head, and he's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm reading. And they're like, but you're not saying any words. And he's like, well, I read in my head sometimes. And he was like, he had never seen anybody do that. That was like a foreign concept. So reading in your head is only about 2,000 years old. Before that, nobody read in their head. Isn't that weird?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's weird because you're just like, obviously I'm just going to read this in my head. Not so obvious. Everybody just used to read out loud, and only just recently in human history have we started reading in our heads. Anyway.
Nice.
Yeah, Brad Allen says, I quit smoking weed a little over a month ago, and now I sleep like 3 hours. Nightmares are crazy. Yeah, that's one of the things that like there are like pros and cons with like smoking weed, and one of the pros for me is I had really good sleep. It's like hard to sleep without like self-medication. Anyway.
Makes sense.
Love how you guys are shooting him across all three chats. They're like, he's an idiot. He's going to miss him somewhere.
I'm lurking. I'm watching.
How you been, man?
For sleeping. All is well, dude. All is well. Been good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
Working my ass off, making some money. Got some new pews to break in, and loving life, man.
Nice. I have an announcement to make, but I don't know if I should make it. I mean, it's I haven't asked my wife if it's okay to tell the internet world. But
Ruh-roh.
I
think I know what it is.
I have like 27 kids. Now it's like
little monkey
28 kids coming.
Congratulations, my Smiggo.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking cool, man. It's cool. I was in church today, and there was like a kid, like a baby crying in the background, and And like, you know, some people in the church will like look back and like scowl at the baby. And I'm like, fuck off, you old hag.
Right?
Like that baby, that's what babies do. Like, just be glad that baby didn't get fucking aborted. Okay. Just like, why are you so angry that the baby's crying, you old fucking.
Because they're of their father, the devil.
Yeah. It's like, dude, stop. Just let the baby cry. It's okay. I'm sure the preacher doesn't mind. No one minds. And then the dad, you know, he gets up and he goes out the back, which I think is probably appropriate, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if he stayed, whatever, but as someone who's had a lot of kids, it's like, I'm going to take the kid out of the situation so it's not a big distraction. But as that was happening, I was like having these fucking flashbacks like, oh shit, I'm about to have that. I remember those days. I remember
You go
those
right back
days.
to the starting gate. You run for a year and a half, 2 years, and then you go back to the starting line.
Yeah,
And
like,
then you run for about 2.5 years, and you go back to the starting line.
yeah, dude.
That 18-year clock just restarts.
Yep. Yeah, so it's cool. My wife's getting all, you know, how like when women get pregnant, they like smells shift and everything. She's like, I don't like the way you smell. I'm like, fuck off. I smell the same way I've always smelled. You're the one who's got the weird hormones going on. I'm not going to be outdone by Elon. Yeah, dude. Elon, I can't believe Elon's got 13 kids, dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
He
it helps
really likes the vagine.
that helps to be a billionaire. Now, he's smart. He's in there spreading his genes. Like, here's the thing. I mean, he's not smart, right? I mean, it'd be great if it was like one woman, not like the whole fucking gene pool. But I will say this. I always think it's really weird when like the millennials flex on how they're not going to have kids. And I'm like, so you realize that, like, you know, let's go with what you guys believe. Millions of years of genetic code just ends with you, and you're like calling that a win? Like,
right?
that's fucking crazy. Like, you were the weakest link in millions and millions and millions of fucking years of DNA, you know, propagating. And you're like, hell yeah, I'm winning. No, you're an idiot. You're the
Well, at
fucking
least they're
huge
true to
loser.
form that they're a cancer that needs to end sometime.
Yeah. I'm anyway. Yeah, so Shinlone, I will not be outdone by Elon. Fuck that. I'm gonna make babies as many as I can make. I really wanted twins, dude. I wanted twins so bad. I want some twin boys. But
Mess around and get you some twin girls. That'd be fun.
yeah, that'd be cool too. I want twin boys because I want them to fight each other. I want to like put them in a pit together and be like, all right, boys, you
The
two are just
ultimate
gonna
twin
fight.
study.
Yeah, you two are gonna fight. Gonna make you hard as shit. He's had kids by IVF. Not me, dude. I got it the old-fashioned way. Your boy Red Dawn Radio couldn't pull out of a driveway.
Oh, I didn't know some of those were IVF. Interesting.
Oh, wifey hit me up right now.
Certainly not all of them.
Nah, he's got a. I mean, it helps to be a billionaire, right? I mean, if you're a billionaire, you got no problem spreading your genes.
What did Orange Man suggest that, you know, they just kind of let you when you have that kind of
they let you
money.
let you grab them by the tiny cat. We fell for.
Hey, Nuclear Family of Four, good to see you.
Hello. Yeah, so that's gonna add like a bit of we've outgrown this house, man. We're sitting here, my wife is like, hey, this is like a good size house, but we've got to figure out how to we got to either remodel this thing or we got to sell it and get a new one, because it's like we're already like on top of each other. My kids are wild, like doors are broken off the hinges. Remember when I brought the door in here and I had it behind me? Oh, we still haven't fixed that thing.
Probably about to outgrow the grocery getter too.
Oh yeah. I was telling her, I was like, babe, I'm not, you know, this ain't like a race thing. Like, I don't care. I was like, I don't care what race they are. I'm not concerned with that. But like, I need a slave. I need someone who can help with this fucking laundry and help pick these kids up and take them to school. And I don't care what color they are. It's not a race thing. It's just I need somebody that fucking, I don't know, man. I can't afford Ampere or whatever they are. You know what an Ampere is? You know what those guys are?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I would love to get that, but I can't afford one of those. Anyway, as far as like the spiritual life is going, I don't know. It's just kind of just it is what it is. I mean, I talked to my pastor and he was like, I talked about, you know, what I was kind of doing, and he was like, well, have you thought about like planting a church, this organization? And I was like, oh, let me talk to you guys. And I don't know, man. I walked away from it being like, I don't want to plant a church with you guys. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want, like, I don't like what you guys think church is. And there's like this whole weird, like, corporate Christian, you know what I'm saying? Like vibe to like mainstream Christianity. And I was like, I don't know if I really am down for that, you know?
Yeah, you don't want to yoke up with the enemy and then be beholden to them. I understand, dude. That's why I formed my own.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, and I was flexing hard. I was like, dude, me and my friend Chatelet, we have a church, fucker. Don't think for 1 second that the internet's not a real place. These aren't real people. Like, we're doing it. And I flexed hard. I flexed really hard. I was like, oh yeah, well, let's talk about this. And then they were like, oh shit, okay, yeah. So it was pretty cool. But you know, one of the things was he was like, hey, if we do partner, like, I'm going to be real clear. I want to replicate us. And I was like, I'm not interested in that. Really. I'm not interested in replicating you. I want to replicate the Lord. Yep. And I'm like, what if the Lord, what if the Lord tells me or is like, hey, I want you to do this. And you're like, no, you're supposed to do this model. And I'm like, well, I think your model sucks. And I was talking about home church with them and they were like, no, that doesn't work. And I was like, you're stupid.
Yeah. Home church doesn't work.
Yeah. I was like,
really? That's how it started, guy.
Yeah. The whole book of Acts is home church. That's why Saul in the book of Acts is persecuting the church. And it says he went from home to home.
Yep.
Because that's where they were hanging out. And it's like, and I had a long conversation with those guys and I just couldn't get it to like, and the thing is, like, you know how it is when you're talking to like, I mean, these guys are Christians. I don't think they're like the enemy, right? I think they are believers and they do love the Lord. And like, when I'm having these conversations with them, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the conversation. I like talking about Jesus. I like talking about the church. I like talking about these things. So it wasn't like it was a bad conversation, but it was just kind of like, you're going a direction I'm not trying to go. So yeah. Yeah, and I thought to myself, one of the things I want to do is, I did not like, when I'm doing like Red Dawn Radio and I'm like, hey guys, fund me. I hate that. I hate asking people for money. Like, I really don't enjoy the feeling of it. And I was like talking to them and I was like, I want to get to a point where I can make my own money doing my own job and then never have to ask the church for money. So like, if I can be a pastor and be like, I'm doing it free. You don't pay me a dime. Like, I do this just because of the love of the grind. And yes. That's kind of the direction I want to go. If the Lord will open that door, who knows what he doesn't open doors. He closes doors. I don't know what he does. That's the direction I would like to go. It's working for me
so far, man.
Yeah, it's the way to go. Yeah, Brad Allen. Brad Allen says, we're the church, not a building or denomination. Yeah, I threw that on them. They all know that. See, these guys all went to seminary. They all understand the theology or whatever. But when I said, when I was like, first thing I would do is sell the building, they were like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, I was the first thing I would do is sell the building.
I'll draw a parallel to that, man. When you go back and look at like Wycliffe and Huss and Tyndale, dude, Wycliffe was straight up in the church saying, do you guys really need all of these buildings and all this money? We're basically saying the same thing now. So it seems like we are modern day reformers.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you guys are screwing people over. You're teaching them they're basically good persons. You're lying to them. None of them knows Christ from a hole in the ground. You test any of them on their Christology and they have no idea. You haven't given them the reason you haven't given them the answer for the reason for the hope that lies within them. They can't answer that. They have no idea. But you have all this money, you have all these buildings. No, miss me with that.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And it's one of those things where like I'll hear they'll make an argument like, the early church, once Constantine legalized Christianity and made it the state religion, they were all too happy to go into those big buildings. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. But that doesn't mean it helped in the long run, right? They were also all too happy to link up with the government and be like, heck yeah, state religion, we love that. And then you like, okay, how did that play out over the next 1,000 years? Like, not so great, huh? So I just don't know if that's the
people who disagreed with them rather than engage on the battlefield.
Yeah, right. Like imagine if some heretic called your orthodox theology heresy and then burned you at the stake. It's like, oh, you believe in the resurrection, a physical bodily resurrection? Well, that's heresy and capital offense because we're also the government. And you're like, well, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's the way it was. That's the team you're siding with over there.
Yeah, that's why I'm
religion.
Yeah, that's why I'm not like when people want to like enforce like a theocracy, I'm always like, no. Like, I understand it sounds good, and it's like, well, what if Christianity was the bedrock of it and it's the right religion? You're like, yes, it sounds good. It sounds really, really good, and in a perfect world, it would be great. But we have the Dark Ages. That's what that was. And who died? Christians. The Catholic Church killed more Christians
they don't
one
understand.
weekend than all of the Roman empires combined, dude.
They don't understand that we have a true theocracy. America was founded on Christ, and it works when Christians will do what they're supposed to do. A lot of Christians don't know what Christ teaches and commands, the basics, to forgive others, for by the same measure we forgive, so shall our Father in heaven see and forgive us, to forgive them for they know not what they do. There's a bunch of these basics that a lot of Christians don't know, and the beast system church has captured these people and convinced them that they're good people, basically, and they don't teach them anything about Christ. That's why we have these guerrilla warriors like me, like Red Dawn Radio, out there trying to tell people, hey, consider Christ. Look at Christ. Look at what he says. Look at what he commands. So stand strong, guys. That's what we're doing here.
Yeah, for sure. I'm reading some of these. I'll when we finish this conversation, I'll get at you, Blankets. Yeah. So it wasn't like one of the things too that I was really frustrated with was I was trying to explain to them, like, because they were like, well, small groups are you could do the same thing with small groups. And I'm like, you can, and I've seen it done well, where like the small group will supplement the meeting in the home, and then you kind of gather it. And I'm like, to me, that's an acceptable model. That works. That's, you're, but the problem is most guys don't do that, or then you also give this weird option of like, hey, the church, like you could be part of this church, but not connected to the small groups. And I'm like, that's totally backwards. The small groups are the church, right? Like I don't know. There's like a whole thing where, and like when I was talking to these guys, they didn't want to have the conversation because they were like, oh shit, this guy's gone way down this road in this thought. I'm like, yeah, dude, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm not coming to this position because it's some weird niche thing. I'm like coming to this position after a lot of reflection and looking at the scriptures and looking at what church is. And they were like, nah, we're not really interested in that. And I was like, all right, well, all right, fine. Bye-bye. I don't care.
Yep.
Blankets asked this question. He says,
I know I want it.
Yeah, what is your opinion on the separating the music from the musician? Ooh, that is a tough one.
I would tell them that all things are lawful for us, but all things are not expedient. So some people are going to be able to enjoy things that are quote unquote of the world, and some people are going to be led to stay away from it. How are you convicted? Can you justify it before your king? That's kind of my answer to things like that. What would you say, RDR?
Yeah, I think it's a really good answer. I didn't know where I was going to go with that, but your answer was spot on. I think that it is like discernment based, like individual person, right? So like there are certain things that we just can't touch. For example, like there's no way you're going to justify like hardcore pornography. Like
Nope.
it's not there, right? But then there's like other aspects. Okay, what about this? What about that? Or like, for example, certain music, like I'll listen to music that's not Christian, and I can take the art form of like rap music, though I disagree with the message, I can still respect the artistry. Does that make sense? Like, I think you can do that, but not everybody can do that, right? So you're kind of looking at like, okay, individually, what are my convictions? Where's my conscience? How am I viewing this? And that's kind of like something that we can't like say for you specifically. Just, it says like in Romans chapter 14 about the weaker brother and the stronger brother and not eating meat, even though meat's lawful and all this stuff. You go back and you read that. It talks about the conscience being a huge deal. Like, don't violate the conscience. So if you sit there and you're listening to it, and there's certain things like, there's certain songs I can't listen to. Like, for example, there's this awesome song from Jedi Mind Tricks, and Vinny Paz goes, "I broke into the Vatican and strangled the Pope with his rosary." I'm like, no, I can't listen to this. like I can listen to other songs. This song, there's like something inside of me is like, no, the Lord is 100% not pleased with that. Though this Pope, he may be more pleased than previous popes. But yeah, you just kind of got to feel that discernment, and then you're like looking at the artist versus and maybe I might not even be understanding the question right, but like then there's also this question of what's your opinion on separating the music from the musician. Like, for example, everybody's a sinner, so there is a way in which I think you can separate it, but it's like, for me, for example, it's hard for me to listen to Freddie Mercury knowing his backstory. I'm like, I don't like those songs anymore. You know what I mean? Like, the dude, your dude's like a super mega fag who destroyed his family, and I'm like, oh God, that's gross. Now all your songs are gross to me. Some people can probably hear it and just hear the music. And before I even knew who he was, knew that whole backstory behind him, I was fine just listening to the music. Like what happened to Kanye. See, I don't know. Like,
it's the Jews.
Yeah, well, I know that. Yeah, yeah, but I'm
that's
like
Kanye's shtick, dude.
Yeah, but it's like, you just got to take it. Like, I think you just have to sort of take it artist by artist, and sort of just be like, what does your conscience tell you? Because there is such a thing as art separated from the artist. So this is what we do in Christian literature. We'll look at a book written. So this is actually probably a good way to look at it. You will get a book written by a great theologian, and then come to find out towards the end of that guy's life, he becomes a non-Christian and he goes apostate or some weird heretic. And people go, oh, should we throw his work out? And you're like, well, actually what he wrote was good. Like, at the time when he wrote that, he wasn't apostate. There is no heresy in that book. That book is actually a really well-written theological book on, whatever, the cross or whatever. And I don't want to throw that out because it's true. I don't want to throw that out because he's a doucheball. And I think there's some of that too, where it's like I don't like Taylor Swift personally as a human being, but I think some of her music's all right. You know what I mean? Now, I don't know, dude. It's just like it sort of depends too. It really it's a question that I can't answer for you because I have individual problems with certain people too. Like, I don't like Tom Hanks anymore. I'm having a hard time watching Saving Private Ryan. I'm like rooting for the fucking Nazis when they killed him at the end. I'm like, hell yeah. Fuck that pedophile.
I cheered when Mark Hamill died in that last movie. When Mark Hamill died, I cheered.
Yeah. When he died from a broken heart or whatever. He fucking died from overdosing on the Force. That's like the official story is he died from overdosing on the Force. Get the fuck out of here. I'm not a Swiftie. I will say this. Before she got all political and stupid, I will say I do enjoy like a lot of her music. Not something that I would like buy her record or like go out of my way to listen to it. But if my wife put on Taylor Swift, I'm like, that's fine. Like I don't hate her music. Like some of her songs are fucking dope. But I mean, you gotta understand too, my wife also grew up in the South where like her childhood is like, don't tell my heart, my achy breaky heart, I just don't think it under. So when she plays that shit, and I'm like, fuck, put Taylor Swift back on, please.
Yep.
Please put Swift back on. Anything but this McGraw character.
Two things about Blanket's argument. First of all, me and RDR aren't going to be answering for you, so it ultimately comes down to you. You know, are you going to be okay with? Can you justify it? Basically, if you're studying it, if it's not convicting you, you know, then that's okay. But if you are talking from a logical perspective, yes, you should be able to remove the person from the argument and examine what the person is saying. A lot of people can't do this. Somebody will say something, do something, and they either go one way or the other. They either smear what they're saying based on their history of, you know, what they've been known for, stuff like that, which is, you know, considerable, but they also will then try to take what the person said and use it devoid of the rest of the context. You should be able to do both. You should be able to separate the person from what they're saying. There's a lot of people out there that were some really bad people, and now they're on the front lines as apologists or pastors. That kind of thing can happen. So logically, yeah, you can separate the person from something that, you know, you're trying to assess or even enjoy.
Yeah, I think so. And that's kind of how art is, you know? You look at a painting and you don't really think like or care who wrote it or who wrote it, fucking idiot. Who painted it. You're assessing the art. And I think that's probably important to do in all genres of art, you know? Cuz it can go the other way. Let's say some dude is like a really solid pastor, Bible teacher, great, you know, husband and father, and he put an art piece out that is just a turd in a toilet. I'm going to look at that art and say, that shit sucks. Like, I don't care how awesome you are. That's a shitty piece of art. So I think you probably should be able to separate. Yeah. Taylor Swift's a clone. I've heard this. She does look a lot like Antoine LaVey's daughter.
Yeah, I've heard that. Supposedly there's a little bit of sauce out there that suggests it.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
I don't know.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. We live in weird times, man. Well, I should say this. I would be surprised, but not as surprised as the average person, probably.
Yeah, in non-clown world.
Would you ever have a gathering with us to come for a weekend to do a Christian Bible class? It would depend. So a lot of things have to line up. I'm fine gathering. I mean, that's kind of what we were doing at the Salt Fest. It was pretty cool, which is still going on, I'm assuming, and I still plan to attend said Salt Fest. But
I was going to ask about that. The one in Texas?
Nah, dude, the one in North Carolina.
Oh, okay, all right.
See, it's hard for me to get up and just leave the state.
I get it.
You know what I mean? Maybe if my kids were a little older, I'd have more freedom there, but it's very difficult to do. But yeah, I would love to meet with you guys, and I'd find doing a Bible study. I'm also fine just hanging out. You could talk to those guys who were at the Salt Fest, the last Salt Fest. I'm just a normal ass dude. I'm just hanging out, just like I'm hanging out with you guys now. I enjoy it. Good morning, TZ Burton. How are you, friend? Power lifter. Good to see you.
Good morning.
There's plenty of sauce for the that she's a clone.
Well, related to Anton LaVey somehow.
Yeah. She looks a lot like his wife. One of the things that's crazy is the June 21st is the Salt Fest in North Carolina.
Okay.
June 21st. It's crazy when people talk to me because I'll mention clones, and people in the beginning of the show, people would get angry when I would like mention clones. They're like, they're like, fucking clones, like, come on, man, like we can't take you serious. And I'm just like, they cloned Dolly the sheep in like what, 1993, 1995, something like that, right? Like in the 90s.
Yep.
And I'm like, if you don't think they have cloned humans, like, you're fucking nuts, dude. Look at mad scientist Dr. Fauci. Do you think he's unique? No, dude. There's so many fucking mad scientists out there without like a moral compass or a conscience. They're like, oh yeah, I don't got any problem with this. I'll fucking clone all types of people. So it's silly to me to know that the technology exists. We know the technology exists. We've done it before with animals. Everybody's seen it. It's like well documented, well understood. And there's still like a remnant out there that's like, yeah, but we've never done it to humans. I'm like, that's weird, dog. That's a weird position to have. I'm sure the Chinese have done it, or oh god, that's funny blankets. The Chinese have done it, or I'm sure the Americans have done it. The Israel's done it. I'm sure they've done it.
Americans First says, I like the old school tent revivals. I'm a fan of the Black Robe Regiment.
Yeah.
That's kind of my bag. The Black Robe Regiment were the pastors that kind of laid the philosophical foundation for 1776. And they were notorious. The British would hunt them specifically.
Give us a little more history, because you told me the history of those guys, and I forget but I remember it was like real fascinating.
There's a bunch of them. You just have to do a Google search for Black Robe Regiment, and there's a number of pastors that what they did is they preached from Scripture. They were all Reformationists, so they were coming from a time when everybody was questioning Scripture because we started getting accurate English translations, and that history is fascinating for me as well. Wycliffe, Tyndale, Huss, all of these people that were smuggling the Word of God in English so that the people could see that they were being lied to by the clergy. They were being fleeced. They were being taught all kinds of crazy stuff. Well, the way we got to 1776 was these pastors started preaching from the Bible, and they were criticizing the British. They were criticizing tyranny. And at the same time, we had the Vatican trying to encroach and do the same thing that we had run away from. So the Black Robe Regiment formed. They start to convince people, and these people went into the taverns. One of the reasons the Pond is a modern-day revolutionary tavern is because that's how we got started with the original 1776. They would meet in these taverns. They would discuss these ideas, and people started to come up with a plan. And that plan was to implement 1776, form this great nation on Christ. And here we are to this day. So the Black Robe Regiment is a bunch of people that they stood up from the pulpit and they professed all of these ideas. They professed Christ, and they criticized what was happening to them through the lens of Jesus Christ, Christ of Nazareth. And I think that's what we need to do again. That's why I think a lot of us are being raised up. And if you've been sent to this ministry, that's probably what we're going to try to get you to do. To be in Christ, to be a weapon in his hand, and we can go forward and help everyone that's out there already weaponized and activated to retake this great nation for Christ.
Yeah, I'm reading right here. It says, influential clergymen, the Black Robe Regiment was not a literal military regiment, but rather a group of influential clergymen who supported American independence and the military struggle against Britain. They served in Congress, presided over influential American schools, led troops in the Revolutionary War, and signed important founding documents. That's fucking gangster. I knew they were tight. I couldn't remember exactly what you were saying about them, though, but yeah.
There's a bunch of them. There's so many of them, and their writings are fascinating. You should go read them, kind of see what they had to say. You're gonna see. RDR says all the time that history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. You're going to see a lot of rhyming between what's going on right now and what these guys were facing. So
I want to see a list.
That's why we're here.
I want to know who was on the team. I want a list of these guys. Is there
a lot of them were tortured and killed, dude?
I want to know if, like, because when you say like Black Robe, I guess maybe I'm just thinking everybody back then had a black robe, because I'm like, I immediately think of George Whitfield. He's famous for that big black
Yeah, it's what
robe.
the
and he-
pastors, it's what the
Yeah,
ministers wore. And
they
dude,
all wore
almost everybody in our founding fathers were some form of minister. Nobody knows that.
Oh yeah, dude. When you read the ancient, listen to me. When you read the old documents on what are they like? Like, you know how we have like our constitutions, but then the states have like their own constitutions, or kind of, what is it? Their own. That's not the Constitution. I can't remember what I'm thinking of. Anyway, they all say that in order to serve in government, you have to be a Christian. You have to be a member of the church.
Yeah, yeah. Several of the state foundations, they said that explicitly.
Yeah, it's like the foundation documents. I don't remember exactly what they're called. You guys someone in here would know more than me, but it's like, yeah, the when people are like, oh, it's not, it was never formed Christian. It's like, nah, dude, it's in every single founding state, or what is it? The state founders, or the why am I struggling with this word? Anyway, yeah, they all of them say you have to be like some sort of some version of a Protestant. Or,
Yep. And
like
when they use the word religion, when you go take a look at our founding texts and the words of our founding fathers, they use the words religion a lot. And what that meant, religion meant a Christian. Anything else, Buddhism, Islam, even Jews, were considered false religion. You can prove beyond any reasonable doubt that this nation was founded on the risen Christ. It just is what it is. Even if you're an atheist or someone that's agnostic, you should still appreciate that about this nation. It's a fact.
Yeah, it's funny because you used to be able to, like, they would call them Mohammedans, like Islam. They'd call them Mohammedans. Mm-hmm. And it used to be, if you looked up like forefathers' views on Mohammedans, they had a lot of bad shit to say. Yeah, like a lot of bad shit. But now, if you like do a little Goggle search, it comes up like you can't find those quotes anymore like you used to, or you got to dig for them. They're a little harder to find. Is it the Federalist Papers? Is that what I'm thinking of? The Federalist Papers? Is that who would?
I thought you were referring to the charters that these places.
Yeah,
made.
that's what it is. It's the charters. That's what it is. I can think of the right word. Yeah, it's the
because all these different states and commonwealths, they had a founding charter, and all of it is about Christ, dude. Christ is the center of this nation. It is what it is. And I think we should go back to, there's a lot of stuff that we should go back to. I play the American Heritage Series videos all the time. And when you take a look at our foundation, we had 12, 13-year-old men that were out riding the Pony Express and fighting off bandits and Indians. It's insane what we've devolved to. So we're kind of trying to get people to get back to the basics, to the root cause and the root cure of everything. So that's kind of what we do here.
Yeah. Sparky Welder said his fifth great grandfather was probably one of the Black Robe guys. He was arrested and fined by the British in Virginia for preaching in the 1700s.
There you go.
That's pretty sweet, dude.
Yep.
I prefer Italian food. I like Italian food more. I like pasta.
I like Oriental style food.
Right.
I like Thai food and Japanese
I do like
food.
Thai. Yeah, I love those. I've only seen a handful of those videos you're talking about. The American Foundation, American Heritage videos.
Yeah, wall builders.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them. I really enjoyed them too.
I got them all, dude, man, and they go deep. There's a lot of people out there that are still taken in by this America was a racist foundation type of thing, and they don't bother to go look at people like Wentworth Cheswell, who was the guy that rode the opposite direction as Paul Revere. He's a black man that went and rallied the troops that harassed the British as they fled. There are a lot of black men and black ministers who were part of the founding of this nation. And we've been somehow goat roped into this concept that no, we were founded on racism. That's bullshit. This shit was about
crazy.
economy.
It's crazy. There's no way to, like, here's the problem. The problem is, like, that lie has been embedded so deep that you're gonna have to wait for like a whole generation to die off to get rid of that lie, because they're never gonna lose it. It's too like so. A lot
I don't
of
know,
like,
man. The memes are doing a very effective job. I think they've met their match in the memes.
yeah, I mean, okay, I should say it this way: there's always gonna be like a remnant that's gonna hold to it. You know, the fucking crazies. But yeah, like as far you're talking about like as far as like general, like the conscious of America goes, yeah, I think people are realizing.
It's wild to me that anybody can go back and look at our history and see for themselves and come to their own conclusion, but so many don't. And it's just like Pascal said, people almost invariably arrive at their beliefs not based on logic and reason, but what they find attractive. Be the almost invariably, guys. Go and look for yourself.
Thank you, Bobby Digital. Appreciate that, man. Yeah,
thanks,
go
nigga.
get sick, dude, or get sick, get better. Jeez, you could tell I haven't had much sleep today. Get sick, die in your bed, warm and cozy.
Tired monkey, best monkey.
Declaration of Independence was about slavery. Yeah, the largest grievance listed in the original draft of the Declaration of Independence was about slavery, says Kalora.
Yeah. Okay, so before the founding of America, there were a bunch of the different colonies that were trying to free the slaves, and England said no. After, there were a bunch of colonies and states that tried to free the slaves. I mean, it's proven. And a lot of people don't know that there was the first person to go to court for the legal right to own slaves was a black man. That's a fact, Jack.
Brad Allen asked if I think Canada is the 51st state already. I said no, I don't think it is.
No, it's going to be gay North Dakota.
I think it is.
Canada's going to be called gay North Dakota. From
Gay
now on.
North Dakota.
Yeah.
We got to ban porn in America. Yeah, I think, David, you're right. Like the porn
That has to be addressed somehow.
It's crazy. It's out of control, and it's so dangerous. And isn't it funny that all of the porn sites, like virtually every major porn site, is owned by a rabbi? I'm not saying. I'm just saying. You know about
I think
that?
it's Wentworth Cheswell, FKE.
It's one rabbi owns that whole shit. Yeah. Not saying, I'm just saying.
Yeah, who owned the boats?
Yeah. Not saying, I'm just saying. So some of these questions, Brad Allen says, have you ever heard the theory that the 12 disciples were mostly teenagers? I've heard that. I don't think there's any way to prove that back and forth. I doubt they were teenagers as though they're 13. Mary was probably 13 when she was pregnant. But to say that they were, these guys are like business owners and stuff. Like, I don't think that they were necessarily like.
Yeah, one of them was
young.
out fishing. You know, like actual commercial type fishing.
Yeah, right. So it's like, and then
One of them was collecting taxes.
Yeah,
Did the Romans have 13-year-olds collecting taxes?
Yeah,
It's
probably not. I'll tell you what, if a 13-year-old tax collector showed up to my spot, that'd be the last time you saw his ass. I'd be like, yeah, come in here. It's in the back room.
I mean, let's use some common sense. There's a lot of people out there that,
But some of them may have been.
Their Christology is shit. They want to look. Okay, people like that ask you these questions, they don't want to look at Christ and just say, hey, what does this guy say? What does he teach? What does he command? They want to go off on all these different weird tangents that are just an excuse to not examine Christ. That's why we ask you guys to look at what Christ teaches, look at what he commands, so you know it for yourself. And that way you can always be ready with an answer for the hope that lies within you.
But if you were to say they were like 17, 18, I could get behind that more than like 13.
Even 15, maybe 15, 16.
Yeah.
Dude, it was a different world back then for sure.
Yeah. So teenagers, I would probably, and this is the problem. There's no way, this is pure speculation. I have no way to know. There's not enough evidence in the Gospels to give us an answer. But I would suppose I put them in, the low end 17, high end 24, 25 range, like somewhere in that like young man range. That's where I would put
Yeah, that
these
makes
guys.
sense because they didn't live very long back then.
Yeah, that's kind of where I put these dudes. But I don't have a way. There's no way to know. People that say, it's fun to. It's like I've said before. It's fun to like to think about and imagine and to have the conversation, but there's not enough information out there to get like a legitimate like yes or no on this thing, but yeah, that's what my intuition, I guess, would say they were around that age, late teens, early 20s.
Nice.
We are sitting here. I missed a lot of stuff. When my friend handed us a milk crate full of pornos. Yeah, porn is a big deal. I remember the first time I got introduced to porn. I was like my
That
friend.
shit's nasty.
Yeah,
it's
dude.
It's proven detrimental. You can't argue it.
Yeah, my friend was house sitting a cat, and we would go over and feed the cat and make sure the cat had food and water. And he was like, "Dude, check this out." And he took me to the guy's closet, and it was two huge boxes full of porno magazines. And some of those pictures to this day are in my head. I can be like, yeah, there was this picture here. Yep. And I remember it being like the feeling it's like a drug. And I wanted to go back. I was like, hey, let's go check out that cat. Every time I was at his house, I wanted to see the cat. Meaning I wanted to go
see the cat, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a drug, man. Definitely a drug. And it's crazy. There's one picture I remember it was like a girl peeing, and I thought it was so weird. And I was like, why is this chick peeing? Is that like a thing? And to this day, that chick peeing is stuck. It will forever be stuck in my head. There you go. There it is. So yeah, get rid of that shit. That shit is poison. I heard a study shows pornography lowers testosterone in men. Yeah, I wondered about that too. I wonder if it's one of the factors, because something like the percentage of men in their 30s that have like massive erectile dysfunction is like, the number's huge, like 40% or something crazy. And I wonder if it has to do with being inundated with pornography from a young age. I mean, I don't know. I just seems like that might be something somebody should look into. John and James were working their fathers. People got married, teens. Yeah, hey, Brad Allen. I'm not saying a hard no. They could have been teenagers. Sometimes when you hear Peter speak, he sounds like a teenager. When he's saying a lot of dumb shit, you're like, oh yeah, that would make sense if you're just like 15. God, that's hilarious when life imitates art. Yeah, she got booed hard at the Super Bowl, didn't she? What is going on?
Couldn't happen to a nicer, more deserving person.
What is going on? Okay, what do we got here? Have you ever heard the theory that okay, got that one.
So I got something for you.
What's up?
Okay, I'm first of all, I'm still pushing Jesse Lee Peterson for everybody out there in the Gorilla Base family. JLP, Jesse Lee Peterson, is a black guy who engages in a lot of cooning, and he has some very unorthodox views, but he has a handle on Christ that is amazing. And if anybody's struggling with stuff that they can't fix any other way, check out something he does called the Silent Prayer. It's basically the Lord's Prayer, and the idea helped me early on with a lot of my theories. I encountered this concept with Roy Masters, a guy who does the Be Still and Know meditation. And then a decade later, I find out that JLP has got kind of the same thing going on. And I examined his Christology, and this stuff is pretty solid. Now, one thing about him, I don't know if it's a shit post. I'm not convinced yet, but he likes to argue against the jig, the Jesus is God argument. So there have been people in my chat, I don't know if they're lurking and they just don't want to ask or whatever, but they kind of wanted you to give your take on JLP saying, hey, there's a distinction between Jesus and God because Jesus made the distinction himself. He was like, why do you call me good? There is none good but the Father. And they might be afraid to ask. They might have not have thought to ask that. 2 characters long is in here now. Jesus is Lord. And I'm like, something I want to say before I get your take on it is, we were talking earlier about removing the person away from the argument that they're making. So JLP's got a lot of stuff right on forgiving others. I also think that he is a retard whisperer. He has a methodology that gets to people, the normies out there that aren't on the same plane as us. These are people that they don't really think about things the same way. They may not have an inner dialogue yet. They're not awake. So I think that he's a retard whisperer in that sort. I think this might be one of his angles to get people in. Dude, he gets Christians in there that will straight up call him the N-word. He has black Christians that call him the N-word because he won't agree with Jesus as God, or he tells them that racism is not real, it's an illusion, or he proves to them that they're angry without cause, stuff like that. So let me know what you think about.
Yeah, I appreciate some of the things he said. I mean, like I don't like hate the guy or whatever. I don't think that he's like a great theologian. But
by his own admission.
Right. Yeah. There's certain things I like about him. I like, he's like, one of the things I like about him is he's obviously not like a like super intellectual. He's just like a simple, normal guy. And he just takes simple, normal guy understanding in arguments and rips the left apart. I enjoy
like a
that.
Columbo, like a black Columbo.
Yeah, I enjoy that about him. Even some of the stuff that I've seen on Silent Prayer, I'm not 100% like, I don't know. I'm like, that's not a bad thing, but I don't necessarily can't get there from some of the stuff. But I haven't looked into it as deeply as you have. But some of this, and again, there's nothing wrong with silent prayer. There's nothing wrong with praying and not even saying anything. You've got to think of like when it says in
God knows what you're going to ask for before you even ask for it.
That's the Ecclesiastes passage. Yeah. He says like when you come to pray, don't like he already knows what you need. Just sit. Yeah. It's more important that you listen. So like and
then beyond that, what should we pray for? I'm struggling with what should we even pray for? If we believe that His will be done means His will be done, that means you got to be okay with whatever happens. We understand that we don't need to ask for anything. He provides everything. We are definitely content in just Him. And I'm like, man, I don't have anything to ask for anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's wild.
I still got things to ask for. I mean, I got maybe not as big things like save our country.
But are you okay if the answer is no? Yes, you are. Obviously,
I have to be because almost every fucking time it's no.
But he again,
it's like,
he knows
all
what
he ever
want,
says to me lately. It's like the only thing he says.
Now the other aspect of his thing is
like, all right, damn.
He's got this belief that these are demons that are messing with us. The spirit of loneliness, the spirit of suicide, the spirit of anger, the spirit of resentment, all of these different spirits. And he teaches a concept called all thoughts, all lies, all the time. Now, for the intellectual, this is something that you can use to make sure that you don't have a preconceived bias or anything like that. But for the normie out there, if these are demons that are messing with us and they get to us mostly through our thoughts, it might be a good idea to start with the foundation of all thoughts, all lies, all the time. And I compare and contrast this with the truther movement. A lot of us are truthers. We didn't buy into the COVID narrative, all of that, because we learned that we've been lied to about everything, and we leveled the slate. We're like, okay, I don't believe anything I've been told anymore. I think he's recommending to do that with your thoughts, because all of those thoughts out there, a lot of times they'll get you to do things that you know isn't you. He argues that this isn't you that's doing it. There's something that's controlling you. So he recommends to do not meditation, but a silent prayer where you basically just observe what's going on in your head. Try to clear your head, and when things start coming in, just watch them.
Yeah.
And there's something to this. I see the fruit that comes from his ministry.
Paul says, I take my thoughts captive. Meaning like
he's too like so that's part of this.
I don't let my thoughts just run free. I don't let my mind go wherever it wants to go. Like I control my thoughts, right? And I examine my thoughts. So I agree with that. But here's the thing though. Anytime somebody tells me Jesus isn't God, I'm like, that is a huge hole in your theology. Matter of fact, I mean, and I'd want to like talk to him more, like to be like, what do you mean by this? But that's like a close-handed issue, right?
Let me point something. Let me point something out to you and to the chat real quick. You did the proper thing. I want to know what Jesse means by that. There's a law called the doctrine of authorial intent. Yeah. And the way it goes, me and RDR have hit on this. Whatever someone says, it means what they meant it to say. I've seen a lot of people spurg in my chat, and I see a lot of people every day spurg in his chat that refuse to go to him and say, hey, what do you mean by that? If his only argument is, hey, Christ distinguishes himself from the Father, so I'm going to honor that, and that's that, I can respect that.
Yeah, he
I
also
can
says,
respect that.
I and the Father are one. I mean, so this is what I would say, like, because two stories about what you're talking about. The first one is when I met that Catholic chick, Renee, who I've talked so much sweetness about. Love that girl. She was just coming out of the nunnery, still had her head shaved, and we had a conversation. And that a lot of the conversation was that, what do you, when you say born again, what do you mean? When you say baptism, what do you mean? And then we found out, like, oh shit, there's a lot of common ground here. We just Protestants and Catholics use a lot of different language to say the same shit, or we use the same language, but we actually mean different things. So we had to do a lot of that. And so I understand that. That was a huge lesson for me. The other one is, I have, some things that I say. For example, historically, the church believes in the eternal sonship of the Lord Jesus Christ. I don't believe in the eternal sonship of the Lord Jesus Christ. So then people jump and go, oh, you don't think Jesus is God? You don't think Jesus is eternal? I say, no. I think that he was eternally the Word, but he became the Son when God said, let there be light. Like, I think that's when he became the firstborn of all creation. I think that's where the sonship starts. I don't think the sonship is eternal. And I veer from almost all of historical Christianity in that sense. Like, I mean, that's fine. I could be wrong about that. But so, like, if I say that, people jump to conclusions because they hear something and they think they understand my position. So I give that invitation to anybody. You say something weird like Jesus isn't God, I'm going to say, okay, that's a fucking crazy position. You need to unpack that for me before I fucking excommunicate your ass. Because it clearly is. And even the thing where they'll be like, well, like the example you gave where he says, why you call me good? Only God is good. The implication not being I'm not God, but the implication is, yeah, I am good and only God is good. So what does that say about me? And I think the Bible clearly refers to Jesus as God over and over and over again. I mean, people will say, like, where does Jesus say it? And you're like, okay, well, he camouflages it in some language, but every single epistle after that, they're clearly calling him God. The Bible clearly calls him God. And then you can also go from places where, the book of Hebrews will quote and speak about the Son and be like, okay, who's this talking about? And the guy will be like, well, the author of the Hebrews is clearly talking about Jesus, the Son. And they go, okay, look at that Old Testament passage. That's being referred to as the Father. So the Father and the Son are one in this sense, or at least God, maybe not the Father, but God is the one who, and there's a million different ways you can go to sit there and say, look, Jesus is obviously God for anybody who reads the Bible and just reads it. And they want like a definitive statement where he comes out and he says, I am God, even though he says I and the Father are one. And if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Or if he says things like before Abraham was, I am, like these sort of statements where you're like, all these different statements where he sort of makes the God claim. Not to mention, even in the Gospels, in the first section of John, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God, then the Word becomes a man, the man dwelt among us, and you find out that man is Jesus Christ. So it's just clearly he is God. He is the eternal essence of God in human form. Now the question is, does this dude know that and just deny it?
I was just about to go there because, dude, Jesse Lee Peterson is a top tier troll and shitlord. So it's not beyond the pale that he's doing this to draw in pseudo intellectual Christians who think they know a thing or two and bring them in there and then make them go learn why they believe what they believe. Because most regular Christians out there, you can hit them with Trinity, explain, and they'll give you all these crazy analogies. They're just repeat parroting things they've heard. They don't understand what RDR just said to you, what I can explain to you. So that's entirely possible. And dude, JLP is the kind of person that would do that. Not only does it get people to question their position, but it gets them to think about it and maybe be able to defend it. The other thing is Jesse has people on that are, Jesus' God types, and he doesn't bat an eye. He allows every man to be fully convinced in their own mind. And that's another biblical doctrine that you guys got to know.
Yeah. Be convinced in your own mind.
You have to allow others to be convinced, meaning you have to reason with them. And RDR did the right thing, dude. For all of you out there listening, that's how you know you got a real one. He's like, oh, I need to talk to Jesse and see what he means by that.
Yeah,
Columbo
for
question
sure.
number one: what do you mean by that? You
Yeah.
got to know what they mean by that before you lay any kind of accusation. I was getting on the 2CL about that. I'm like, dude, if you are wrong, if Jesse's trolling, then you are speaking the language of the accuser when you lay charge at him. We're told to not judge Christ's servants at all. And by every other metric, when you take a look at the comprehensive case, something's going on with Jesse. He's been on the front lines forever. He's got the videos documenting going all the way back for 30-something years. The fruit is amazing. There's a million people out there that are like, dude, this guy helped me rethink things, and I'm definitely not where I was before I encountered him. So there's something going on there.
Yeah, I think so like my initial reaction would be like if somebody did say that, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm already putting a big red flag on you because that's a crazy thing to say. Like you're going way off the rails on it for just making the claim. But then I also have to think about sometimes the way that I describe Jesus. I describe him as not God also. Like I say, no, when he became human, he fully became human, not some superhuman.
Right, right.
You know, like so if we were to have that discussion and he explained it to me like that, I'd be like, okay, I understand what you're saying. I mean, no theologian is going to say it that way. No Bible scholar is going to say it. You're saying it in a way that we would say, rethink it, like be more precise in your language. But
yeah, what is he trying to do? Is his intent to honor the Father? Does he have such a high view of the Father that he says, well, hey, dude, your son made a weird distinction here, so I'm going to do the same to honor you? I'm okay with that. Yeah. Especially given that he's not an intellectual and he wants to use simple terms. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, that's the other thing too. He's not, I mean, nothing against the dude, but he's not a deep thinker. Like I'm actually learning about this in one of my college classes, the different types of people and different intelligence types. And I'm like, I'm taking all these tests and it's like, you're very introspective. I'm like, oh, I guess I kind of knew that. But then I realized like, oh, not everybody's that way. Not everybody like thinks deeply on shit, like hyper analyzes. And it's like, not everyone has an inner dialogue. Yeah. That's weird to me because my inner dialogue won't shut the fuck up, dude. Like I've actually been taking a lot of time to try to get him to shut the fuck up. Like they're out there. We call them NPCs. You're confusing me. The Packers versus Bears mind spell is what I want you guys to notice about this whole thing. They try to make two sides of it. The Jesus is God side and then the Jesus is not God side. And they want you to pick a team and they want you to fight really hard against the other side. I'm telling you that if you don't understand the basics of what Christ teaches and commands and you're focused on that, then you've missed the mark. You need to remember the basics. Christ tells us to forgive everyone, to actually forgive them. He tells us that we are his property. We are his slaves. We are his bondservants. He gives us commands. Study that. Make sure you got a handle on that. Makes it easier to forgive others. It makes it easier to allow them to reason themselves into their positions. It makes it easier to not judge people because you know that the same thing that's going on inside of you, the spiritual battle, is also going on in other people. You can forgive them for they know not what they do. Get the basics down before you go into the fun stuff, guys. I'm charging you. So David Wade asked a cool question. Just a thought. If no man has seen God and lived, which is a quote from the scripture, because his glory would destroy mortal man, and Jesus is God, how come people aren't blown away by Jesus, God in the flesh? I do want to, this question that's interesting, especially in light of this. Very well done. It is a cool question. And the question actually gets asked on the eve of Sodom and Gomorrah when the three men come to Abraham and he eats with them, and Abraham knows that one of them is God, and he says, we have seen God and yet our life has been spared. And this is, I think, one of the questions that the angels long to look into. Remember, the angels are watching us going, and they know the verses. They're like, dude, any man in God's presence is going to be annihilated, and yet here he is walking amongst Abraham and hanging out with these guys. How is this possible? How are they able to? How is he able to withstand the glory of God, the presence of God, and not be destroyed? And I think the answer is
because their names were written in the Lamb's Book of Life before the foundation of the earth. So they knew. So like, even though he was still, even though Christ hadn't died, like his justification was purchased on credit, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, no, he's good. He's one of mine. He's actually not sinful. That sin's been paid for already. He can be in my presence. But that question that you're asking is one of the questions that Abraham himself asks. He's like, no man can see God and live, and yet my life has been spared. I think is that might not be the exact quote, but it's something like that. He's like, how can we see God and still be alive, and our lives have been spared? And I think the answer is because Christ's blood works in both directions, to the future and into the past. Something like that. Something
Nice.
like that. Yeah, FN Super Trucker. It is a massive red flag. But I always give people the benefit of the doubt. So I've said this before, I even allow for really shitty theology. Like, one of the things I've learned about sin is God isn't as concerned with the specific action as the intention of the heart. That to me is more a better engagement of sin. Is like, what is the intention? Now the heart is deceitfully wicked, so it's not like you can accurately gauge what your heart is doing. But when he's looking at the individual, he's not saying, oh, that guy did something. He said that guy's heart caused him to do something. So I'm always looking for the heart motive. Like, what's motivating you? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And I remember being in Canada doing some church planner assessment thing, and there's this woman who says she's she believes that women can be pastors, which is fucking wrong. But
Yep.
I want to know. So sort of the same thing. She makes the claim. And since I already had that conversation with my friend Renee, the Catholic woman, the nun, I know better than to just blast. So I go, what do you mean by that? Why do you hold that position? And what was cool was she gave me Bible verses, right? She was working there from the scripture. And it changed my whole outlook, because had she come and been like, well, you know, women have been equally liberated and the patriarchy has been suppressing women, and studies show that we are just as capable of leadership and mentorship, and the church really needs a maternal instinct over its head, and blah, blah, blah. If you came with that, I'd say fucking anathema, get out of the church, go away from me, you disgusting woman. But she didn't do that. So she was struggling with the scriptures and trying to get there through the Bible, which is a totally different scenario. So I'm like, okay, you're wrong, but praise God that you're trying to get the answer from the Bible, right? And she's like, look, Deborah was Deborah was a leader, and your sons and your daughters will prophesy. And I'm looking at this here, and I'm looking at that there. I'm seeing the way that Jesus had the women sit at the feet, and I'm like, okay, I see. Like, it changes everything. So the statement itself is important, but only as a starting point. Then you got to go, okay, let's dig into that. Why do you believe what you believe? Like, how are you coming to that conclusion? And that changes everything. It changes everything about that entire woman. I thought I was just gonna laugh her out of the room and be like, get away from me. And then I turned around and at the end was like, oh, I think she's a sister. She just doesn't believe the right things. But like I've told you before, there's a lot of shit that I believe that isn't right, and I don't know where it is. I don't know what I believe is wrong. We all have these blind spots. So I think that's important. I think it's really important to understand when you're dealing with anybody making a claim about God or about anything. You know, even if it's like even if they're making a claim about like social policies. Okay, what do you mean by that? Someone says, I'm a progressive. Okay, what do you mean by that? What does that mean? I don't want to assume I know a whole lot more about what a progressive means than what most people mean by it. So I don't want to give the great definition of it. I want to know, what do you mean when you say progressive? Okay, now why do you come to that conclusion? What are the pieces that you hold to, and then address it at that level? But I can't just be like, oh, progressive, fuck off, you're wrong. Well, They probably
Brad-
are, but I want to know why.
Brad Allen's in Odyssey chat right now going, those are the 2 Columbo questions. That's right. What do you mean by that? How did you come to that conclusion? Start using that, guys.
Yeah. I never watched Columbo, but I just
It's the same principle. He just
I'm
boils
deeply
it down.
introspective, so I just fucking figured that out on my own.
Oh, dude, I don't know if you know Greg Kokel. He wrote the book Tactics, but he's got this video I play, and he's giving this explanation of an encounter that he had. There was a bunch of like younger college type people that were sitting in a room with him, and he was trying to explain to them that they'd been duped. And he put two slogans on a chalkboard. He's like, all views are equally valid. And he put that up there. And they're like, okay, yeah, I can agree with that. And he puts another one that says, Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and Jews who deny him are wrong. And the class was like, wait a minute, you can't say that. That's intolerant. And he was like, okay, let's go over number 1 again. All views are equally valid. And that's when the light started coming on for them.
Yeah. No, Blankets, I haven't used Grok.
Logical thinking always wins, guys. Use your
I'm trying
brains.
to
And
get
we'll
caught
help
up
you
here.
with that. We'll teach you.
Yeah, for sure. What's cool too, guys. I've said this before. If you study the Bible and you allow the Bible to transform your mind, you will be light years ahead of your peers. Like I'm over here debating my college professor, just fucking crushing her, dude. And I'm like, okay, hold on, let's think through this.
Love it.
You know, and I'm like, let's think through this process. You said these are the categories of learning, or these are the categories of information, and this is like you have these 3 categories of how people absorb information. And I'm like, I would argue the gossip queen is absorbing information too. She's just absorbing information that you and I don't see as valuable. So the question is really about how do we value information? Because she can tell you exactly who kissed who on what date and what they were wearing and what shoes they were wearing, and she's gathering information too. And she's like, oh yeah, I guess there is an implied value on, there is an unspoken value in, or there's an unspoken information value dynamic here that we just assume and is not being addressed. I'm like, yeah, because, and then I hit her with this. I said, so we agree that there seems to be some information that's more important, and you would argue, okay, well, the gossip girl who has all this information about her colleagues and school, that information is not important. So these people over here who are gathering this information, they're actually gathering important information. Therefore, they're the information gatherers, or they're the strategic thinkers. And I said, okay, let me ask this question then. The most influential book of all time is the Bible. Whether you like it or don't like it, it's the most influential book ever written. Most astrophysicists can't tell you anything about the Bible. Are they not information seekers? Are all of those astrophysicists and philosophers and psychologists, are they all in the dumb category now because they don't know? I mean, we're talking about value of information. This is the most influential book ever written, and they've never read it. So, I mean, and she's noticeably like, I like this guy. I'm like, yeah, I'm not the regular community college kids you're used to seeing.
I had that experience when I was getting my AA. The philosophy teacher asked a question and even couched it perfectly. Does truth exist? And is that true? And there were all these people that hopped on there. I waited like a week before I responded. And every single one of them started giving the postmodernist view that, well, if it's true for me, but not true for you. And you can't really know truth. And it's like an elephant and 3 blind men. And I hop on there after about a week, like, well, yeah, there has to be truth. The truth has to exist. To answer the question, does truth exist? You are making a truth claim. Yeah. And then the teacher hopped in and like, yep, there you go. Yeah. They don't know, man. They don't know. They've been devoid of logic.
Purposely, yeah. If it's like, oh, my truth, it's like your truth is your truth and my truth is my truth. It's like, well, my truth says your truth is a lie. Is it still true? My truth says your shit's a lie. So, like, how can yours also be a lie and the truth at the same time? That violates the law of non-contradiction, which is the very first law you learn in in logic.
Almost nobody knows the law of non-contradiction. Dr. Frank Turk, the guy that I play all the time, one of the first things he teaches people, and I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, is the law of non-contradiction.
Yeah, something can't be both a rock and not a rock, or a tree and a non-tree. Like
all truth is relative. Is that a relative truth?
Yeah. So here's the thing too. Funny about that. The entire Buddhist religion is based off of a violation of the law of non-contradiction. It says in the end you're going to reach nirvana, which means you become both everything and nothing. And I'm like, nah, dog. That's why you motherfuckers didn't. That's why the West progressed way faster than you. That can't happen. You can't be both everything and nothing. Like, that's impossible. And it sounds deep, right? People, I want to try to contemplate that, and then they try to contemplate this impossible thing, and they're like, "Oh, that's so deep. That's so deep." No, that's fucking retarded. That's not deep thinking. That's juvenile, infantile thinking. Like, that's not like real adults don't think that way. You can't be both everything and nothing. And that's the whole what is it, like the rabbit gate? There's like this whole thing. I remember learning about it in school and just laughing my ass off, being like, "Oh shit, there's whole continents that believe this nonsense." Fucking
most people out there know Richard Dawkins. He's like a big atheist, and he was big during the atheist days. He got BTFO'd by a logical contradiction. He was trying to define nothing, and the friar that was there, he was like, the crowd just started laughing when he tried to make his case, and he's like, "Why is everyone laughing?" The dude was like, "Well, we think it's kind of funny that you're trying to define nothing."
Yeah.
And he's BTFO'd. He will not debate anyone of substance ever again.
Yeah.
He crawled into his ivory tower and he's gone. It's that easy, guys.
Yeah, it is easy. That's what we're trying to tell you. Like, a little bit of truth. So here's the awesome part about truth. It's true. Like, so it's really easy to defend because it's true. You're like, the sky is blue. Well, I've got all of this scientific data to prove. You're like, I don't know, man, the sky's blue. Like, I'm pretty sure I can defend this one, and I don't have to be a scientist for this. Went outside, took a picture, here you go. You know, and it's like, when you have the truth on your side, you really can be a fucking juggernaut. And there's like all these certain things, like in my psychology class, they're learning about like like the different ways in which you can do psychology. There's like the evolutionary approach, there's the biological approach, there's all these stupid the whole
it's
class
all
is
crap and
stupid.
it's all contradictory.
It's all fucking stupid, dude. It's all stupid. Oh yeah,
it all contradicts each other. It's
there's
like
a ton of
suicide.
contradictory. Yeah. There's the camps don't agree. And the popular one right now is the humanistic approach, which basically says two things. One, that everybody has like free will, and two, everybody's innately good. And I was like,
yeah.
And that's like the predominant thought right now. It's just
and you're dancing
like,
to your DNA. You don't really have any thoughts. You're just a meat machine. Talking monkey.
It's like this hippy dippy shit. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fucking crucify this. Watch this.
Yep.
And it's just easy. It's fucking easy. But then you find parts that are true. You're like, okay, actually, there's some truth in. But once you know, so the Bible gives us this awesome ability to know these things are true. Here's the truth about the unseen world. Here's the truth about humanity. Here's the right way to think. Here's the right way to view some of these moral situations. And you have like good frameworks for truth so that you can find, since you know what's true, you can find the bits of truth in things. For example, I don't like Sigmund Freud. I fucking don't like Sigmund Freud at all. But when I was going through his psychodynamic approach, I was like, okay, this is true, this is true, this is true. Now, a lot of the shit is garbage, but there's elements in what you're saying that are true. They correspond with what I can find Bible verses that correspond with these. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you do. I know exactly what you mean. The same thing happened with Calvin. There's a lot of people out there called Calvinists that what they believe is completely off and away from what John Calvin actually believed.
Yeah, so, that's hilarious to me.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, there's like
go to the source.
There's like a whole point in Calvinism, the limited atonement, where Calvin would be like, I don't believe that. It's like, wait a minute, I never said that. I never said any of that. Like, you guys made that up. Yeah, I get extra points for not being a brain dead 18-year-old school graduate. Yeah, it is kind of nice. It is nice when I'm talking to these dudes and they're like, oh, somebody who's got a brain in their head.
Yeah.
I'm also like, one of the things, and this is, you guys have all kind of experienced this at some point too, I'm sure at this point, but like the smart people of society, when you start like rubbing shoulders with them, you're like, I don't actually think you're that smart. I don't think you're smarter than me. I don't think you're even fucking close. I don't think you're smarter than my kid in some sense.
Yep.
Tom McDonald is on right now, apparently, talking about his new song, Man in the Sky. Have you heard that song? That Man in the Sky song?
I have not heard it yet.
I heard a clip from it. It was like there's a man in a lab coat, you know, selling me medicine because he gets paid. There's a man, like a scientist in a coat, like there's a man, and it's like all this like nonsense men, like a man in a suit and tie giving me the news that's a lie. And then he says there's also a man, there's a man in a pulpit telling me about the man in the sky. And I couldn't tell if he was giving honor to the Lord, to God, or if he was mocking religion. I couldn't, because I only heard the one clip. So
right.
My initial instinct was, oh, I think he's taking a shot at like Christianity or whatever. But then as I listened to it like more, I was like, oh, maybe not. Maybe he's actually saying that this is
he could be mocking the Beast System Church.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I don't know. I got to hear that song.
Because, I mean, the modern church doesn't really teach about the timeless, spaceless, immaterial, moral, powerful, personal creator and sustainer of the universe. They teach about the man in the sky and the pearly gates and St. Peter and all that shit. So, yeah, he could be mocking that.
No, I haven't taken TikTok dance class. That's when I get into the actual nursing program is when we do the TikTok dance class. Mysterious fails. Yeah, mysteriously fails. What do I think about Shakespeare? I don't know. I don't know, man. Shakespeare's
brevity is the soul of wit, and mine is not to wonder why, mine is but to do or die.
Yeah, so many good. So
it's good to know. It's good to study.
I was told this. If you want to read, so somebody said this to me. You cannot consider yourself properly educated or properly read if you haven't read the entire Bible, the works of Plato, and the complete works of Shakespeare. And he threw Shakespeare in there. And I haven't read Shakespeare. I've read I've read like Othello and some of the books. I haven't read the complete works of Shakespeare. But I have read the Bible, and I have read Plato. And it's interesting, the same guy that said that was like, Shakespeare is like in that category. I don't understand why. I'm a little ignorant to why. I mean, I grant he's a great poet. He's a great playwright. I don't know why he's in the same category as Plato in the Bible, but I don't necessarily have like a bad thing to say about him. I know that that's like a when you talk about like most influential writings in human history, for some reason Shakespeare gets in that conversation. I don't know why he does, but
it's because as America, all of that is like part of our history. If you learn the English language, then you should probably learn the history of England and how we got to where we are now. And from a literary perspective, I don't think it's a bad idea. Now, I do find it extremely weird that if you go back 100, 150 years ago, all of these elementary schools and high schools and colleges, they were all teaching the Bible first and foremost, and then bringing in other things. So now we have the focus in the literary world of Shakespeare and Plato and Aristotle and Homer's works and all this stuff that we're supposed to study. There was hardly a mention of the Bible at all in my elementary, middle school, high school. None. I didn't know any of this stuff. So it is kind of weird that comparison is drawn.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was talking earlier about how people don't know about the black men that were part of the founding of America. And it was because around the 1880s, they started what's called the economic view of American history. And this is what we pushed on our kids. And basically, it removed all reference to God and the supernatural. And all these black people that I'm telling you about, they were ministers. They were people that were of God. And all of their writings were about God. So that's why we are where we are today. They removed our history. They removed the fact that this is a Christian nation, that we were founded on Christ. And now, no, you got to know Shakespeare. You don't need to know the Bible. You got to know Shakespeare, though.
Yeah, I feel like I was real lucky. Like I went to like the college I went to was like it was as close to a classical. So you know how when you like if you look at Yale and Harvard and Oxford, those were like
both founded on Christ.
Yeah, they were all like Christian schools back in the day. They were made to make Renaissance men. It's like a liberal arts
their
degree.
statement of faith says it right there.
Right, yeah. They all have chapels and stuff like on campus. And like the idea was to make a Renaissance man. So like liberal arts wasn't what it is now. It was like seen as a good thing to teach you how to think and how to reason. So it's like you get this liberal arts degree, and then you could go out and you could do anything you wanted. You don't have to be like an engineer because you learned how to think. So you're like, I can teach myself the math or whatever. I can be an engineer. I can work all these processes out because you learned how to think through your liberal arts degree. Essentially, that's a super oversimplification. But I was lucky when I went the school I went to was as close to that as you can get in America because it was a Christian school, and then they still taught like Plato, Aristotle. They taught like all of like the classic literature, like John Locke and Rousseau, and you went through the entire breadth of like of these ideas, but it was all from the Christian perspective. And the whole time you're learning the New Testament, learning the Old Testament, learning like theology, and it was crazy because I was like, dude, that used to be every college experience. And now I've gone to a few colleges, like I'm going to this community college here now. And then I took a few classes at Seattle Pacific University. And those are fucking AIDS, dude. It's like, it's crazy. You're like, you're not learning anything here that's good, that's worth that. Dude, I want to show you, I wish I could pull up my philosophy book. It is all propaganda. It's this. It's 30% propaganda, 70% psychology. 70% psychology, 30% propaganda. Every page talks about COVID-19. It's like all the feminist shit is brought forward. Like it will sit there and say like, it'll be like, these were the founders of modern psychology, and it'll give the two guys, and it'll kind of give their backstory. And then it'll be like a whole page on like, but because of the patriarchy and racism, black men and women are not equally acknowledged for their role in the early founding of psychology. And it'll be like, yeah, and I'll be like, funny you make the statement and you talk about all of the shit, but you don't give me any names. Who? What? Yeah. What black guy was the original? What is right up there with those two guys? The two guys that started modern psychology. Give me the black guy who's being left out of the story. They're like, no, he just didn't have the opportunity. He's like, okay, well, fucking shut up, dude. Why are you even saying that? And it'll have like it'll talk about what each chapter is going to be about. This is like chapter 1, and it's like chapter 2 is going to be about this. Chapter 3 is going to be about this, and it's just kind of giving you like the blurb, like the chapter, and then like 1 or 2 sentences on what it's going to be about, right? And then you get to like chapter 8, and it says, and it's about the psychology of feminine gender or some shit, and it was like huge letters. This chapter is particularly important to us, and I'm like, why the fuck are you doing that? like not only is that on there, which is crazy, but you highlighted it to say this is our most important chapter, and it will say shit like this is the fucking funniest one. I don't know if I told you guys about this like a few weeks ago, but it's so fucking funny. It said we're we're learning about correlation is not necessarily causation, which is interesting because so this is how you're supposed to say it. Correlation is not necessarily causation. That's the correct way that we have said it in Logic 101 since the days of fucking, I don't know, Moses, okay? Correlation is not necessarily causation. Now it's taught correlation is not causation. And I said, well, here's a big problem with that. Sometimes it is. It's like that sun rises over there in the fucking east and the whole world becomes bright. I think the correlation and causation are combined here, but here in this book they've separated. So correlation does not equal causation. And I'm like, okay, that's weird because sometimes it clearly does. So we're learning about correlation and causation, and it was like it said you run a study and you find out that the more that ice cream cones are sold, the more there's violent crime in the city. So the same city sells, like, if they get a bump in ice cream sales, they get a bump in crime. And they say correlation is not causation, right? So even though those two numbers are correlated, they may not be causal. So it has nothing to do with, it's not like people are buying ice cream cones and going out and robbing liquor stores. And the textbook is like, so what do you think the answer is? And obviously the answer is, well, it's probably hotter. And the heat causes you to want to buy more ice cream, but heat also causes an increase in crime. And then it goes into this whole study about, like, yes, not even a study, but it just kind of mentions, yes, heat, the hotter it tends to be, there tends to be more crime. And then it goes into a 2-paragraph tirade on global warming. It's like, and this is a particular problem considering the recent studies of global warming. And it's like, what the fuck does this have to do with any of this? Like, you just shoehorned two paragraphs of global warming where it clearly doesn't fit. Like, it does nothing to do with the chapter, has nothing to do with the conversation. You just saw an opportunity to rabbit trail in your fucking textbook on global warming to push your narrative. That was so fucking crazy, dude. It's so crazy.
Yep.
I'm still getting an A in that class, though. But it's like, I fucking can't believe it. I can't believe it.
It's insane.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they push that lie everywhere. But if you learn how to think, you learn how to, like, see through that. Like, and what's interesting is, like, students will read that and they won't pick up that it's been forcibly shoved in there.
Yep.
They'll just be like, oh, this is the thought. That's why when I'm teaching the Bible, I want to show, and maybe I haven't done this as good as I want to at times, but I want to show, like, hey, see how he's talking about this topic, and this topic is, the train of thought is continuing, and it's all one big idea, and he's Paul is saying something up here, and then it's like those same concepts are being played out and taken apart here, and then here's how they're all being applied, like it's all one thought. This isn't like different ideas being shoehorned in here, and like nobody knows how to read anymore or whatever, so they don't recognize, like, hey, doesn't have anything to do with what we were talking about. That was like some schizophrenia right there. Anyway, enough about that. I don't know. See, I did that just now. I schizophrenia'd on you. We were talking
That's
about the Lord.
All right.
Talking about the Lord.
It's called the weave.
Yeah, it's called the weave. I fucking I hate the weave.
I don't mind it.
I hate it. I want to like Donald Trump. You could be way more effective if you didn't weave. If you're just straightforward and hit your points logically and in order.
I think it's mimetic, dude. And again, you got to look at the audience. It's the same thing I consider when I'm pondering JLP. Look at the audience, man. They're not us. They're not like us. They're a little different. So I think about the messengers that God raises up. He always raises up these strange, different people. And it's always so they can reach a certain group. A certain group is going to be able to associate with them. It's going to find something interesting about them. And boom, they're in there. And I keep seeing this pattern. I'm like, man, glory to God.
Yeah, for sure. It is weird, but I think you're right. It's definitely memeable. Says a lot of
Yeah.
stuff, a lot of shit comes out of his mouth. You're like, that's gonna be funny. Clip that. Clip
He
that
loves
shit.
it.
Clip that.
Shit
Dude.
poster in chief.
Yeah.
Him and Elon both, dude. Elon,
I know Elon
Elon's fucking troll game, his
is.
shit
Do you
posting
think
game.
Elon zig-heiled on purpose?
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know.
100%.
I've thought about that.
not
I'm like,
not because he believes in any of that gay
no,
stuff.
just to be
but
like this will
just to
get some
trigger
attention.
the fucking Marxist left.
This will get
And it
some
worked
attention.
like a dream. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All the Poltards out there were like, "Damn, dog."
Yeah, dude. Like that's all we were talking about. And it got a lot of attention on him and what he's talking about.
It brought eyes on the spell of everyone I don't like is a Nazi. And
Yep.
it brought eyes on the spell of the 6 Gorillions.
Hell yeah. Damn, that was fast.
Boom.
Aprogromate. I fucking suck at reading your guys' names. I always have. I'm not going to get any better. Dude, one of my biggest regrets right now about not being able to do Red Dawn Radio and having to focus on this other shit is there is so much cool shit happening and I'm only catching like the highlights. I'm like, oh God, I'm missing so much awesome things right now.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. Like, fuck, this is crazy.
It's
like
happening so fast, dude. It's
Oh
just
my
one
God,
after the
dude,
other, after the other, after the other.
yeah,
And I'm
dude.
loving it.
lightning speed, dude. Just like they're
They
talking
don't know
about.
what to do.
It's like they're just figuring out like, oh God, we're being audited, we're being fired, everybody's selling their homes in DC, and there's like, oh, now they're gonna go audit Fort Knox. Fuck.
Bro, everyone who works for the government got an email from Elon basically saying, give me 5 bullet points of what you did last week. Refusal means that you're putting in your resignation.
Yeah. There's someone. I just saw a thing where some lady was like, "Oh, I didn't know I had to open that email." It's like, oh shit, that sucks.
Well-
That's very government of you. I didn't know I had to
Yeah,
open that email.
yeah. The gravy train is over, folks. Time to take our nation back.
Yeah, I know the Roman salute has nothing to do with Hitler. I don't think that it. I hear you. I hear you, Ranger.
Dude, he
I hear you.
expressed exactly what he meant by that. He said it.
Yeah,
My heart goes out to you. And he grabbed his heart and he threw it out to the crowd.
Yeah.
And he knew it would trigger the absolute fuck out of them. And it worked
Oh,
like a
yeah.
dream. It's why we win, guys. Me and Red Dawn Radio 4 years ago have been telling you, we won. We've already won. There is no way they can win. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't have any kind of a ground to stand on. Everything they believe is a lie.
Yeah,
It's
they
still the
lost.
same
They
today.
lost all of the human terrain. They lost it all. They like we've taken every hill. So it's like yeah, and this is also the thing that was beautiful about truth. Once the truth is exposed, you can't. It's very hard to cover it up. You know what I'm saying? Like if you've never been outside, and you lived your entire life in a house, maybe you could sit there and we could that same argument about the sky's blue, and you could go back and forth and obviously I'm gonna have the better argument because it's true. But once you step outside and see that sky, you're never gonna go back to the opinion that it's not blue anymore.
Yep.
And that's like that's sort of the way that this is happening. Like once the enemy gets exposed and once truth gets exposed, it's like something crazy has to happen to go the other direction. You really need like a fucking major blue beam event or something like to try to get people off of the course of truth, because that's just the nature of truth. It's true. You know what I mean? Like it's true. That's why we call it truth. Truth is that this is we hold to. This is what I want to say. You said this earlier about the relative view of truth, or whatever, the secular view of truth. You and I, we hold to what's called a correspondence view of truth, meaning truth is that which corresponds to reality.
Yeah, what
So-
corresponds to its referent.
Yeah, it's called when people say truth and you're having that conversation, you tell them I have a correspondence view of truth. That's the nomenclature for it, and it means truth is that which corresponds to reality. So what's true for you is not what's true for you is true for you, true for me, true for me. No, truth is whatever is fucking real, dog. That's what truth is. Like, which sounds crazy when you say that, because you're like, obviously, is there another definition? Yeah, that's not that definition that me and Shadowley are sharing with you is not the predominant definition in mainstream academia, unless you're talking about astrophysics or fucking math, right? But if you're talking about anything other than that, anything to do with the humanities, truth is 100% subjective. It's like, nope, Sorry, that ain't
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
That's not how truth works, man. There is TZ Burton said, RDR past Shadow Lake, could you please pray for my wife's cancer recovery? She's doing fine. Finished last radiation treatment. Before we bounce, I do want to get that prayer out there. There's been like a lot of cool stories where we've been like praying for people and maybe not a lot of cool stories, but enough where we like prayed for people and they're like, hey, you know, I'm doing good. A lot of like praise reports is I think what we call them. And we got to make sure we get those in. There's a lot of praise. When you talk about praying, and this is sort of like the silent prayer thing, you talk about praying. Praying is not necessarily asking. A lot of prayer could be thanking. So we went from a season of life of like, Lord, do this, Lord, do this, Lord, do this, Lord, do this, Lord, do this. And then he was like, okay, I will. And now our country is like doing amazing. Like, I would recommend we keep the same pace in prayer but instead of asking, thanking. Thank you for this. Thank you for this.
Spirit
Thank
of
you for this.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, the
Yes.
spirit of Thanksgiving. Yeah. He loves that. I get discouraged because like a lot of times it is kind of I'm easily discouraged. I'm kind of like, I got like daddy issues and shit. I'm like,
Beta.
at the end of the day, I'm like a scared little boy without a dad. And I get discouraged easily. And I'll get like really discouraged about like, why isn't, like we were talking about this earlier, why isn't God answering yes to any of my prayers? Like, I'm like, hey, do this, do that. Can you please help me with this? Would you do this? And it's always like, no. And I'm like, damn, dude, this sucks. And I went into kind of looking up, like reading the scriptures, sort of trying to find encouragement. And I ran across the passage about, you know, prayers of thanksgiving and like offering thanksgiving and like that's the proper response to God. Like he wants your thanks. And I was like, okay, I need to shift my prayers from, hey, do this for me, to thank you for what you've done. You know, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, what does his will be done mean, guys? When Christ was asked, hey man, how do we pray? He responded with, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Right inside there is his will be done, guys. Try to be, especially for the men out there, try to be unmoved. Don't react to anything. If his will be done means his will be done, try to work on being okay with whatever happens. I'm telling you, it makes a difference. Try to shoot for perfect peace as best you can, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be depending on us.
Yeah, that you know that Horatio Safford, you know who that is? He's the guy who wrote It Is Well With My Soul.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know.
Yeah, you guys know that story, like his wife and kids were on a trip on a boat from America to England, or one, I don't remember what direction they were going, but it was like, I think from America to England, and the fucking boat sank and he lost his wife and his kids.
All of them.
Yeah, his whole family. And you know, later, I don't know how many years later, he was doing that same trip and the captain came to him and he said, hey, I just want you to know this is the spot where the boat went down. Your family is below us right now if you want to like have closure. And he wrote the song It Is Well With My Soul. And like there's something about that, like God gets a lot of glory from us when you ask and he says no, and then you respond with, okay, it is good.
Yes, it is well.
Yeah, it is well with my soul. Like I don't want to stop doing Red Dawn Radio, but it is well with my soul. Like that's what we got going on. I don't want cancer, right? You listening to White Wings, and we're gonna ask for the Lord to heal you here in a few minutes, White Wings. But if he says no, the correct response is like, okay, God is good. He is
And
good.
you know what? White Wing's been around long enough. She's going to be like, yeah, if it goes the other way, I get to be with Christ before you guys do. That's the proper way to look at it. You should want to be with Christ.
Yeah.
There should be no fear of death. There should be no worry. There should be no concern. None of that is excusable for the bondservant of Christ, guys.
I was thinking about that in church today. It was like the fucking morbid thoughts. And I was like, I want to die.
I want to be with my king.
And I'm like hanging out with like I got my kids, and I'm like, I'm having this internal dialogue that I've got that is fucking fast and like a lot going on in my head. And I'm sitting there singing worship songs. I got all 4 kids in front of me, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I could die right now. That would be the best case scenario is I would die and I'd be with my Lord. And then I immediately looked at my youngest girl, and I thought she wouldn't think that. She would be upset if I died. And then I immediately thought, but not if she knew what I knew.
Yeah. She just don't know no better.
If she knew what I knew, she'd be like, hell yeah, go home, daddy.
Yep.
God's got us. We're
She'd
good.
be happy for you. It'd
Yeah,
be called
exactly.
a wake for a reason.
Yeah. Yep. She'd be
Called
like,
awake because you're asleep here and you wake up in eternity.
yeah. She's like, I'll see you. I'll see you in a little bit. What is this? The Ranger says weapons and ammo. Spike strips. Add those to the
Rangers
list. Spike strips. Add those to the list. All right. So I've got two sort of prayer requests we could probably hit up here. One is TZ Burton, RDR Pastor Chatelet. Could you please pray or say a prayer for my wife's cancer recovery? She's doing fine. Finished last radiation treatment, so we'll pray for that. And then White Wings says, please pray for my brother. Oh, I thought it was you. I read that too quickly. Please pray for my brother. He's been diagnosed with 2 cancers and given less than a year to live. Thank you. So yeah, we'll pray for both those things. Chatelet, do you wanna start and then I'll close? Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, it sounds good, man.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right, Heavenly Father, we come before you to thank you for this time of fellowship and friendship as we honor you, discuss you, and do our best as a team to help others to understand who Christ is, what you teach, and what you command. And Father, we ask you to go forth among this congregation, among these people, give them the spirit of encouragement, of comfort, and help them to understand the concept of his will be done. Help to give them the peace that surpasses understanding, and give them any power that you have best set aside for them so that they can go forth as your instruments, as your soldiers, and help to reclaim this nation and take it back from the dark forces that we know. For we know this is not a battle of flesh and blood, but of principalities and powers of the rulers of this dark place. So we understand that they know not what they do. Allow us to forgive those that come against us as we go forward and do your will. And we ask all of this in your name, Christ, we pray.
Lord, first of all, thank you so much for the amazing thing that you're doing in this country, and really I start to see it bleed over into Europe, and you have made it very clear to everybody who's been paying attention, even to the pagans, that you are at the center of it. You are the one doing this amazing thing. You are the one reviving the nations and casting light onto darkness and revealing the corruption. And thank you for that. Thank you for the exposing of the enemy, and may you continue to do so and bring forth righteousness and justice. I want to pray, Lord, for TZ Burton, his wife. I pray, Lord, that first of all, thank you that she has had victory over cancer. Lord, even victories by a surgeon's hand still comes from you. Every good and perfect thing comes down from the Lord. So we recognize that as something that you've done, and we thank you for that. I pray that you would help her in her recovery to gain strength, and I pray that many years from now she can look back and see this as just a season of life, a strange season of life, and not think much on it as she continues to go forward in health and goodness. I pray for White Wings' brother. I pray, Lord, that you would cure this cancer. I believe that you've done it in the past. I saw the way that you, just reading Acts and seeing how you healed in those days. I pray, Lord, that you would do it today, that you would cause the cancer to be no more. If that is not the case and you have other plans, I pray, Lord, that her brother would have the wisdom to contemplate eternal things, and that at the end of that would see you in the middle of it. Love you, Jesus, and pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I'm pretty sure White Wings is a female, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's old school pond.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but I tend to get that wrong. Dude, I got to get with you, my friend, about the finances stuff. I've been.
Yeah, just let me know, dude. It's easy peasy.
Yeah, my wife's like, when are you gonna call Chatelet? I'm like, I don't know. I just got so much shit to do. She's like, come on, call Chatelet. He's like, he said he'd help you. I'm like, okay, I will.
Yeah, I got you, man.
Sweet. Are we doing Acts next? I don't think so. I don't know what we're doing next. I'm just kind of waiting, and we'll see. I don't have any right now, honestly, Brad Allen. I want to take this time to just sort of like not prepare a sermon for a little bit and sort of get some other stuff set
This is normal, guys. I've only got 5 sermons for a reason. I do them when they're late on me, so give them time.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Why don't you guys participate and come up with some really good questions for next Sunday, dude? We're here to answer them. Get your questions. Make them good, man. Make them really good. And
yeah. Ask questions. Try to fucking stump us, dude.
There you go.
You know, like that's fucking good.
Ask us about some niche shit. We can talk about that forever, and that might lead him to where he's got to go, man. This is a team sport.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're 100% right, Chatelet. Like I could get up and like make some like, okay, I'm gonna go do this, but it's like,
me too. I could do it every Sunday, but no, I'm gonna fellowship and I'm gonna teach,
and I'm gonna wait until he tells me what to do. Right at the end of the day, we're slaves, and
y'all can tell us what you want to learn. That's one thing about the pond. We got a new friend named Juju, and she's like, hey, can we go into the history of blah blah blah? I'm like, dude, all you got to do is show up and start talking about it, and we're there.
Yeah, super easy. All right, guys, that is all I got.
Hey, Ranger said I never read his questions.
What is his question?
Sorry,
well, he did ask a question up here. Sorry, that's right. I have it here. What is your position? No, what is it? What is your position on preterism? The more I find altered history, the more I read the Bible, I think we are in the little season.
I think eschatology is fake and gay.
I think that. So preterism. So if you guys don't know what preterism is the interpretation that the prophecies in the Book of Revelation were already fulfilled. Is essentially right. I'm right about that, right? Isn't that essentially what preterism is?
Yeah, and I mean, I could even get behind that. There's the concept that Christ is already back with us, guys.
Some of them are fulfilled. Some of them are fulfilled. And then the question is, because there's different views, like there's partial preterism, there's like full preterism. You know, it's like some of them were fulfilled, some of them aren't fulfilled. And I sort of talked about some of those when we hit them up in Revelation. I don't hold to that position, though. It is good to know why they sort of believe what they believe. I'm not sure I understand the small period you're talking about. I think we're in the small period is what you said. I don't know if I know what that is, the little season. I'm not sure I understand the little season.
Let me explain to you why I don't get into eschatology, because it feels like divination to me, guys, and we are warned away from divination. We're supposed to take no concern for what we eat or drink. We're supposed to not worry about tomorrow at all, but we're supposed to try to deduce what the end times are when we can look at the battlefield, and every single generation before us thought it was the end of times. It goes back to what RDR was saying before. It's cool to comprehend, just for the sake of argument and for fun, if you have the proper foundation in Christ. But I can't, I can't get behind it. Oh.
I got a bloody forehead. I got to go handle.
All right, man. Appreciate you, Smigger.
I gotta handle this. Sorry. Hey, Ranger, remind me, I'll give a better answer, sort of. I understand what he's saying. I understand why he's asking the question, because of the mud flood stuff, but I got a bleeding forehead I gotta go handle.
You're good, Spigot. Thanks for having me, man.
Yep. I'll talk to you guys later. See you next week.
Later, man.
Each of our lives is a story, and with each new person we meet, we become a part of their story, and they become a part of ours. The God who created the universe has somehow woven together these billions of stories into one story, which is the greatest story ever told. Alright, check it. Let's go back in time, brethren. Divine lessons. Always keep your mind guessing. The glory of the triune gods, what I'm stressing. The origin of humankind was fine. Blessings were plenteous. God is amazingly generous. Crazy benefits in a state of innocence. God told the man what he could taste was limited. Not long after came my nemesis in Genesis. He scanned well. Man fell, damn to hell. The whole human race, he represented it. Fooled by the serpent, man through his work, woman through birth. Even the earth ruled by the curses. But instead of awake, immediately God said her seed would be the one to crush the head of the snake. Yo, wait, what's this? Whoa, what gracious gift. In Jehovah's faithfulness, he clothed their nakedness. This was so they would know their Savior's kiss and bliss. But first, many growing pains exist. Suffering in the worst form, ugly deeds. Eve's firstborn seed made his brother bleed. Indeed, things got progressively worse. Every section of the earth been affected by the curse. And though God's judgments against sin were gory, praise the Lord, it's not the end of the story.
It's the greatest story ever told. A God pursues foes whose hearts turn cold. It's the greatest story ever told. The story known that the enemy stole. It's the greatest story ever told. The glory of Christ is the goal. Behold, it's the greatest story ever told. It's the greatest.
Next scene, man's sin was extreme. God gets steam, man gets cream. The Lord is so holy that he drowned him in the water. Fire in the valley of slaughter, Sodom and Gomorrah. But at the same time, he's so gracious and patient that from one man, he created a whole nation. Eventually enslaved by the mentally depraved, they cried out to the only one with the strength that he could save. He brought them out with signs and wonders, satisfied their hunger. Then he appeared on Mount Sinai in thunder, where he laid down the law for God-ruled government, commonly referred to as the Mosaic covenant. Sins imputed, so for man to know he's unrighteous, God instituted animal sacrifices. This was to show our constant need for atonement. And when it came to sin, the Lord would never condone it. And when his people disobeyed and went astray, he raised up prophets and kings to lead them in the way. But they would get foul with their idolatry, wet and wild. Prophecy sent them into exile to take their punishment like a grown man. Then with his own hand, he placed them back in their homeland. And while in their forefathers' land they dwell, they awaited the arrival of Emmanuel.
It's
Word.
the greatest story ever told. A God pursues foes whose hearts turn cold. It's the greatest story ever told. The story known that the enemy stole. It's the greatest story ever told. The glory of Christ is the goal. Behold, it's the greatest story ever told. It's the greatest.
After 400 silent years filled with sighs and tears, in Bethlehem the Messiah appears. God in the flesh, second person of the Trinity. At 30 begins his earthly ministry, baffling cats with accurate exact facts and back-to-back miraculous acts. A stumbling block to the self-righteous, but to humble his flock, said there's no one else like this. He came from heaven to awake the numb, demonstrated his power over nature, son. A foretaste of the kingdom in the age to come. But the reason he came was to pay the sum for the depths of our wickedness, our wretched sinfulness. Bless his magnificence, he's perfect and innocent. Yet he was wrecked in his death, he predicted it. Next he was stretched, paid a debt that was infinite. He said that he finished it, resurrected so the elect would be the recipients of its benefits. Through faith and penitence we get to be intimate. His grace is heaven sent, it never diminishes. Now the Holy Spirit in dwelling is the evidence for heaven's future residents, who truly represent Jesus, the author, producer, director, and star of the story that'll never ever end. Ever end, ever end, ever end, ever end.
It's the greatest story ever told. A God pursues foes whose hearts turn cold. It's the greatest story ever told. The story known that the enemy stole. It's the greatest story ever told. The glory of Christ is the goal. Behold, it's the greatest story ever told. It's the greatest. It's the greatest story ever told. A God pursues foes whose hearts turn cold. It's the greatest story ever told. The story known that the enemy stole. It's the greatest story ever told. The glory of Christ is the goal. Behold, it's the greatest story ever told. It's the greatest. greatest story ever told. A God pursues foes whose hearts turn cold. It's the greatest story ever told. Restoring all that the enemy stole. It's the greatest story ever told. The glory of Christ is the goal. Behold, it's the greatest story ever told. It's the greatest.